recording. There we go. Okay. So we are going to solve the following equation for E. Okay. And what we've got is we've got D is equal to EF. And when we have EF, remember that's just exactly the same as E times F. Yes? And if you recall, we want, when we're trying to solve for something, what do we want to do first? We want to get it on the top. And then second thing we want to do is we want to get it on the or by itself. And the third thing we want to do is we want to get it on the left. And so what we're going to do is we want to solve for E. So I've got D is equal to EF. And because you cannot really see here that there is a top and a bottom, let's just throw a little over 1. So you can see there is a bottom to both sides. And we are trying to isolate E. Is E on the top? Yes. Is it by itself? No. So we need to get rid of whatever is cluttering it up, and that is the letter F. And remember, what we want to do is we want to move things diagonally across the equal sign. So F is going to move on the diagonal. And I'm going to give you 2 choices for what that means. Does it go up here or does it go down here? Does it go up or does it go down? It has to go down because you can't have like on top of on top. That doesn't make any sense, right? There's just a top and a bottom. So it's going to move down. If something is on the top on one side, it must move to the bottom on the other side. So now we have D over E, or sorry, D over F is equal to E. And so now E is by itself. If E is not on the left, what should we do with the whole equation? Flip it, okay? So we're going to put E on the left, and we're going to put D over F on the right. So we flip, and then we are done, okay? And now, what you get to do is you get to try these exercises. And remember, you want it on the top by itself and on the left, and you can only move things diagonally across the equal sign. By the way, if you have a different way of solving the equation, if you can just do it in your head and don't need to show any work, that's fine, as long as you're getting the answers correct. If you like multiplying both sides by something and then dividing both sides by something, feel free to do that. I just want to make sure you're getting the answers correct, no matter which method you use. Okay, so why don't you guys give that a try? Okay, and we will start with number 1. And when you get to number 7, you're going to show me, okay? And I'll let you know if they are correct or not, okay? G is equal to, I will be right with you. And okay, so we have yes, and yes, and yes. Very good. Okay, so if you want to, you could try some of these ones. Okay, yeah.
Slow it down. Oh my god, I forgot that. Oh yeah. Let me just.
All right, what have we got? We've got yes and yes and yes. So what you can do is you could try some of these ones. Okay. Hello. Okay, we got that and that and that. That looks great. So you can try some of these ones. Okay. Right, so we got that and that and that. That's great. So you can, well, you're already doing these. So if you just want to if you just want to work ahead, you can work ahead. Yeah. Hello. All right. Okay, so keep going. And then when you're done, do this one and show me that. Have a pencil. Perfect. All right. Oh, finish up and then show me these ones. Okay. Okay. So for this one, do you know how to solve for H? Okay. So what you're going to do is you are going to put each of these over one here. And then you need H on the top. Is it on the top? Yeah, it's by itself. So what can you do? I. And it moves down, yeah, across there. Yeah, perfect. And you're rewriting the equation with G over H, or sorry, G over I. And so now we have H on the top, H by itself. Is it on the left? Yes. No. And when it's not on the left, just
Like,
so
good little out. Down outside of the
now you're gonna do the same thing here, but this time you're solving for I.
Basically, over one. Things on both sides. Yeah.
Okay, so for this one,
What letter?
that's letter I. So I is on the top. And you also want it on itself. So actually, let's just write two people's in I. And then let's put them both over. Because that way you can see the top and the bottom, okay? Now you want I by itself, so if you have to move the I by itself, the H. And on the left is equal to it, yeah. Okay, and that was fine. The next one you'll find are very, very similar, okay? All right, that looks great. Now you're gonna try these next ones, which are also very, very similar. Okay, these ones are all the same, and then you change when you go over here, so if you get stuck, you can get your phone down, okay? Yeah.
It's just walk.
Yeah. If you can do these, that's great.
Justice mentally ready for all
So we want to charge. What is this?
You don't want to learn that, but then when it's back in the start, yeah, like, I've done that within like months.
Okay, so we got that, we got that, we got
This
that.
would be like every night competition for grade 44. Oh, but I didn't think I could handle it. That's fine.
Hello.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what we got here. We got that, and we
Yeah.
All right, so you got those here, right? And so we have constant here. So you want to call charge, so your unknown is charge. So say here's charge. Charge is equals question mark, and then the unit is, yeah. Okay, and then, you are going to solve for the unknown, so you're going to solve this equation for Q. Okay? Yeah. So take this, just like you did previously when you were solving with Q. Right, let's see, that's correct, that's correct, that's correct. So you can now start working toward four. Okay.
Ah, 4.0 is two significant figures, yes. It should be 9.0, yeah. What does the answer key say? Oh, it says 9. Okay, I think I changed that and I haven't changed it here, so I need to fix that. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah. That was my down. All right, so now I'm going to solve for Q. So once again. Yeah. Well, this time, you're going to take R, and Q's already on the top, so we're going to take it to the top. So you're going to take R, and then up. Okay, so now you have R is equal to, and then you multiply the roll on the left, so you'll just flip it. So if you want to try these three, those will be all the same, okay? Yeah. Just see that. So yes. Yes. Very nice. You got it. I'm not sure. Or you finish that one? No, you're not finished that one. That would be right. Cool. Yeah. Once you do these, they're all the same. Yeah.
Shouldn't someone borrow a calculator?
You can absolutely borrow a calculator, yes. There you go. Anyone else need to borrow a calculator? Hi. Okay, so when you're finished that, you can work on page 44. So you know where you are. Where you are.
Ever bring this to my house?
Now we're here. So any machine now solve for these. So once again, we want to make sure that it's for one underneath the loop. And now you want you on the top. It's not by itself though, so we have to if you certain one is, it's moving straight across. It's like a bottom.
So you do that, you put, and then the
That's fine. Yeah.
I'm probably
Yes.
Oh, it's 11.
Okay, so solve is what we just did. So you're gonna solve for your unknown. Now your unknown says how much charge. That should be Q. And what's the unit of Q? Coulombs. Okay, so this should be, so you're gonna solve for your unknown, which is Q. Okay, so fix that, and then you'll solve for Q. So you'll take this and isolate Q. So this. Okay. How much charge?
Okay.
And the unit of charge is coulombs. So now you're going to take this equation and you're going to solve it for the unknown, which is Q.
Alright,
So
so
you
that
want
means
to isolate Q. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it only has one sig fig. Yeah. 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 So for this one, I think because it was an example, I probably didn't bother. Oh yeah, I did it here. So here it is with sig figs. There's the
Oh.
yeah. Yeah.
So almost meant to be this, right?
That is correct. And then you're going to substitute. So you'll put your equals. And then you'll put some brackets and put your value for I in there. So that's 60 amps. Okay.
Maybe what times,
Times, yeah. 800 seconds.
seconds. And then that'll be answer, and that's something.
And that's going to be in coulombs, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Can I also buy the calculator?
Yes. Yes. Okay, folks, I would like to go over there you go. Thank you. I would like to go over some of the stuff on page 44, which is 6.2F. And I know some of you have already done it, so you can just like not pay attention until I tell you to pay attention, okay? So for the rest of you, you're going to find the first page of 6.2F, and that is page 44. So if you want to number your pages from your last page up to page 44, you can do that, or you can just find the beginning of 6.2F, and that is page 44. Let me know if you cannot find it. You got it? You find it, everybody? Yeah, okay. So here we have a question. How much charge passes a point in, and here's one number we have 800 seconds, and we have 60 A. What does A stand for? A stands for amps, okay? What quantity are we measuring if we have 800 seconds? That is time. And what does amps measure? Amps measures current. Now, if you have forgotten any of these things, make sure you have your purple sheet out because it will remind you. Okay, so have your purple sheet if you cannot remember. So, our given information is that time, which is T, is equal to 800 seconds. Our other given value is current. Do you guys remember the symbol for current? It's kind of a weird one. It's an I. It stands for the intensity of the current. So we have I is equal to 60 amps. And then our unknown, we need to look for our question word. How much is a question word? And it says how much charge. So that is our unknown. What is the symbol that we use for charge? Q. Okay, so we have Q. So our unknown is Q, and we don't know how much it is. Okay, and the unit of charge is C, which stands for coulombs. Okay, and now we get to pick an equation from our purple sheet that includes Q and I and T. It is the I quit formula. And if you can't remember it, just go to your purple sheet and look at your formulas. So we have I is equal to Q over T. So that's our GUE. Our first S is solve for the unknown, and in this case, the unknown is Q. Okay, so we want to solve our equation for Q. So I'm starting with I equals Q over T. I'm going to put the I over 1. And then I want Q on the top. Q is on the top. Good. I want Q by itself. So I need to move the T. I'm going to give you 2 choices for where to move the T. Are we going to move the T to the bottom, underneath the I, or are we going to move it up beside the I? We're going to move it up beside the I because that moves it on a diagonal. It was on the bottom. It's going to move to the other side on the top. So we now have I times T is equal to Q. And then I'm going to flip it, and I'm actually going to pop it right over here. I'm going to say Q is equal to I times T. We are now going to our second S, stands for substitute. So we are going to substitute our I value. So I is 60 amps. So we're going to write 60 amps. Our T is 800 seconds. So we're going to write 800 seconds. So that was GUS S. So we substituted. And now we are going to C calculate. So you can use your calculator. 60 times 800 is 48000. And the unit of charge, here's our charge. The unit of charge is the coulomb. So we're going to put coulombs there. So we've calculated, we have our unit. We're going to put a box around it. And then we either need to stop at a reasonable number of digits, which would give us what we have right there. Okay, so that would be a perfectly fine answer. If you want to do sig figs, we have 60. If there is no decimal, zeros to the right are not significant. And what that means is if this 0 is not significant, we only have one sig fig. Okay? So 60 has just one sig fig. And 800, for the same reason, it's not got a decimal in it. And so it also only has one sig fig. And so our answer to correct sig figs would only have one sig fig, which means we would need to round it. So we would take 48,000 and we would say, here's my one digit, is the 4, and we'll look to the right, and that's an 8. So that is going to round to 50,000. And it is still coulombs. Okay, so if you needed a little refresher on the sig figs, that's how that would work, and you would put a box around that as your final answer. But there's one more thing that I want to show you, and this is where, even if you've not been paying attention to me up to this point, if you have not read the stuff down below, we're going to go through it together. Because if you want to, and we actually had Q is equal to I times T, so I'm going to rewrite it that same way that we had it before. Remember, I was 60 amps. Yeah? But what is another way of writing amp? Coulomb per second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write I as 60 coulombs over seconds. And I'm going to write it top and bottom. I'm not going to write it like this because that gets confusing. Okay? One over the other. And I am multiplying that by my time, which is 800 seconds. Right? And you could say that 800 seconds is over 1. Yeah? What happens if in math, if you have something on the top and something on the bottom? What do? They divide and they cancel out, yeah? So you can actually see when you break down the unit that way, you can actually see, oh, the seconds cancel out and I am left with coulombs. And that's going to be a really powerful technique when it comes to like chemistry 11 and physics 11, is that you can, when you can see where the units are and how they cancel out, you can always ensure that you get the correct answer by doing that. So, is that required? No, it's not. But if you feel comfortable doing that, do it for the enriched credit and just show that extra step of work there. So rather than putting amps, put the coulombs per second and show the canceling of the seconds. So for enriched credit, show the canceling of the seconds. Okay. Would we like to do another example together? Okay, this one is on page 45. Okay, this is on page 45. It is the second page of 6.2F. Okay, and in this case, we're going to say, What is our given? Well, we have a 36 coulombs of charge. That's given. And remember, what's the symbol for charge? Q. Okay? So we can write down that one of our given quantities is that charge is equal to 36. So we put the number and then we put the unit, the coulomb. We must have another given quantity somewhere. Oh, and look at that. We have another number here. Current is 4.0 amps. And what is the symbol for current? Symbol for current is I. But like I said, if you forget that, use your purple sheet. Okay? So now we know that I is 4.0 amps. And our unknown, look for your question word, which is who, what, where, why, when, or how many. How many? That's our unknown. How many seconds? What quantity are we measuring if we're measuring seconds? That's going to be time. So our unknown is going to be T is equal to we don't know how many seconds. Then you get to look for the formula on your purple sheet that involves Q and I and T. It's really the only one we've done anything with so far. So we're doing I quit, okay? That's our I quit formula. I equals Q over T. Now we want to solve for our unknown, and the unknown is time. So let's solve for our unknown. So we have I equals Q over T. We can put that I over 1. Is T on the top? No. So the very first thing we have to do is we have to move T up to the top. Don't try and get T by itself before you've moved it to the top. Otherwise, you'll have problems. So now we have T times I is equal to Q. So T is on the top. Is T by itself? Is T by itself? No. So I can put both of these over 1. And that shows me that in order to get T by itself, I need to move the I. So the I is going to move down here. All right. And what that means is that we now have T. Then on the other side, we have Q on the top, and I has moved down to the bottom. So we have T is equal to Q over I. I'm going to rewrite that equation because I have solved. What comes after solve? Substitute. So we're going to find Q, which is 36 coulombs. So we're going to put, instead of the Q, we're going to put 36 C for coulombs. Okay. I, we have 4.0 amps, so that's going to be 4.0 amps. So we have substituted. we're going to calculate. 36 divided by 4 is 9. And our unit, the unit of time is seconds. Box it. And that is a perfectly good answer if you are not worried about the enriched credit. If you want the enriched credit, how many sig figs in the number 36? 2 sig figs, that's easy. Now 4.0, remember last time if there was no decimal, zeros to the right are not significant. No decimal, not significant. But this time, yes decimal, so zeros to the right, yes, they are significant. And so what that would become then is we would then have 2 sig figs and 2 sig figs. So we would then have to, if we wanted the enriched credit, put that to 9.0, so it has 2 sig figs seconds. Okay? Now, are you ready for a little fancy math? It's not that fancy. You've probably done stuff like this before. Again, this fancy math is enriched. You don't have to do it. Okay, this should have said, I've got typos in here. 4.0 has 2 sig figs, so the answer would be 9.0 seconds. I messed up there. Okay, a little skills preview. What is a reciprocal? Have you guys heard this word before? How many people have heard the word reciprocal? Okay, maybe half of you. Maybe more and you've just forgotten. Maybe it's been a while. A reciprocal is when you take a number and you flip it, not left to right, but you flip it upside down. Okay? Flip it upside down. So, what is the reciprocal of 1 over 4? 4 over 1. What is the reciprocal of 3? Now, remember, 3 doesn't have anything on the bottom, but you could put it over top of 1. So what is the reciprocal of 3? 1 over 3. And now this is when it's going to apply to us. Do you remember what a coulomb per second is? A coulomb per second is an amp, right? What is the reciprocal of a coulomb per second? That is a second per coulomb. Okay? All right. We've got those there. And now we're moving on to page 46. So now that we know what a reciprocal is, dividing by a number, and once again, this is going to be enriched stuff, so if you don't want to do it, that's okay. But dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So let's say I had 7 and I'm dividing by 1 over 4. That's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal of 1 over 4, which is 4 over 1. So 7 divided by 1 over 4 is 7 times 4 over 1, and you can do that either on your calculator or in your head, and you get 28. Let's say we have 25. So I have 25, and we're dividing by 3 over 4. So instead, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of 3 over 4, which is 4 over 3. And if you plug that into your calculator, you will get 33.333333333. Okay. Here's note number 1. In science, for our final answer, we usually use decimals rather than fractions. Okay? So I know in math, you tend to use fractions instead of decimals. In science, we tend to use decimals rather than fractions. So you have to be aware of which subject you're in. Okay? The other thing is we do not write long or repeating decimals. Okay, so I don't want to see this. This is ugly. Yuck. Okay? I also don't want to see 33.3 repeater because, again, that is ugly. Yuck. Okay, yuck. Yuck. Because we're working our way up to saying which of these digits are actually meaningful. And I don't know these numbers. These are made from measurements. Do I know my measurements with certainty out to infinite digits? No, that's crazy, right? If I make a measurement, I'm guessing somewhere, right? So what we're going to do is, if you're fine with just taking it to a reasonable number of digits, 33.3 would be a reasonable number of digits, somewhere between 2 and 4 digits. Okay, you could also say 33.33, and that would be a reasonable number of digits. Okay. Now let's take a look. Let's put the reciprocal and dividing by the number is the same as multiplying its reciprocal. Let's use that with our units of amps. And we're going to look at our last question. Okay. So we had, if you recall, T was equal to Q divided by I, and we had 36 coulombs over 4 amps. So we're going to try that again, but we're going to turn the amps into coulombs per second. So instead of having amps, if you want to, you can instead write coulombs per second. Now we are dividing by coulombs per second, which is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, which is seconds per coulomb. And if you look at this now, what we now have is our number is 9, and we have coulombs on the top, and we have coulombs on the bottom, and so those cancel out, and what we're left with on the top is seconds, which is exactly what we wanted as a unit for time. Okay, so like I said, this is enriched. Only do it if you feel comfortable. If you want to give yourself a little challenge, give it a try. It's kind of fun. I don't know, I find it kind of fun. I'm a weirdo though, but you too can be a weirdo. So for the rest of class, you can try some of these exercises. Okay? There we go. The quiz tomorrow, just to be clear, what's going to be on the quiz tomorrow? You need to know what charge is. You need to know what the symbol for charge is. You need to know the unit for charge. You need to know what current is, what the symbol for current is, and what the unit for current is. But you'll have your purple sheet, so that should be pretty easy. There will be one Guess Cubs question, but it will not include solve, because a bunch of people were away today and didn't necessarily pick up that skill, right? So it'll just be like I equals Q over T, and you'll have to do the I. I will be your unknown. Okay? Now, you can have a choice tomorrow as to whether you want this or not. Okay? So you get to choose. Do I want this little scaffolding here to help me out? Or can I do it by myself? I'll have both versions available. Okay? So you get to decide, do I want the scaffolding? Do I not want the scaffolding? Do I want to use my purple sheet or do I not want to use my purple sheet? Okay? Your choice. Howdy.
One question: is it only going to be with amps and stuff, or
It's only going to be with amps and stuff.
Alright,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Second of all, is it okay? Do I have to write for sake of is it okay if I write 130 first, or do I have to do 125 and then 130?
You can do 130 first. It's totally fine. Yeah, you
Okay.
can do the rounding just right away.
All right.
Yeah.
So another one.
Yeah.
Done.
Cool. Yes. So your homework is pages 47, 48, pages 47 and 48. Yeah.
So like the questions are just gonna be like that, right? And
There's
then-
just
and,
gonna be
like,
there's gonna be one of these, and then there's gonna be something like this. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe define current.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Here, let me just throw that up there. Quiz. You should be able to define current.
Like.
Hello.
I want to see if my definition is acceptable.
Okay. How much charge passes a point in a specific time? Beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes.
And can you mark it stuff?
As done. I certainly can. You sure can. And I have a quiz to get back to you when you get back. Okay. Thank you. Oh, the unit and the symbol for. Mm-hmm.
Do I do it like that, or do I?
Okay, so yeah, we want Q by itself, so the R goes up here, so it ends up beside the P. So you now have P times R equals Q. Yeah?
So put P and then R.
So it doesn't matter. You can have P and then R, or you can have R and then P, because it's the same thing. RP is the same as PR. Does that make sense? Yeah, cool. Good, good. Hi.
So,
Yes.
I have some questions about the definition.
Yes, yes,
So, charge.
yes,
Is how much, well, in this case, electrons
yes.
are passing through a single point
That
during the
that is the current. Yes.
wait, current
Current is how much charge passes a point in a given amount of
in a
time.
given amount of time.
Yes.
And
Charge is just, I'm not going to have you define charge. I think it's too simplistic. Do you know what I mean? It's just charges are charges. They're,
I mean,
I don't know how to define it really. It's like it's either a positive or a negative charge.
I've once heard of this analogy.
Yeah.
So it's like it says that a flow of electricity is like water flowing in a pipe,
Yes.
and the amount of water
Yes.
that flows
Yes.
between one end of the pipe to another,
Yeah.
in this case, the
Yeah.
current,
Yes.
depends on how fast the water is flowing, but
Yes.
also how wide the pipe is.
Yes.
So like what is my question?
Okay.
Like what,
So-
what is
We are it doesn't matter in this particular case because we are just ignoring the size of the thing. We're just saying this much current is flowing past. Maybe you've got a bigger thing and it's moving more slowly, or maybe you've got a smaller thing and it's moving more quickly, but the amount of charge flowing past that point is whatever it is. Did that make sense? Cool. Hi, how are you?
I can't.
No, I was wondering about that.
Whole week is just all been too.
I know. I hear you. I hear you. Okay. Yeah. No, no. Oh my God. This one is another thing.
Yeah. I have special meetings after before I'll be back.
Okay. Yeah. I don't blame you. Sit. Sit. Maybe watch a little TV.
Like right now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. If I ever need a movie, I've got some. I guess I should not be recording. But